Welcome to the East Bank Sports Show, everybody. I'm your host, Noah, with my buddy Matt, member of the Fanatical Elves Network, which is a member of the Fans First Sports Network. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Sorry for the jank intro, and if you were watching the live stream before this, we had some technical difficulties. I went completely mute, so we fixed that. We restarted. My cable was loose on my mic. But we have a lot of topics to get into today. You know, the Cavs clinched the playoffs. You know, the Guardians are looking well, even though they're losing to the Yankees right now. I just wanted to say one thing real quick before we get started. I'm going through some family stuff right now, so I just want to dedicate this episode to my grandma, Esther. I love you, Grandma. I am hoping everything is okay with my family up in my hometown. Matt, how we doing today, man?
I'm not bad, man. We got a lot going on in Cleveland sports. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too, man. You want to just jump right into it? I'm ready to talk Guardians because I am ecstatic if you are.
I mean, let's get into it. They're off to a really solid start. I don't think anybody really has major complaints with how they're playing through the first few series of the year. I mean, they're second in the AL, 9-5 at the moment. It's hard to be upset.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm just ecstatic. You know, we've won 4 series, the first 4 series of the season, first time in 22 years. This team looks great under vote. Sorry. I'm just really happy with everything. You know, we were both at opening day. Matt, what are your thoughts on opening day? I mean, you know, we won, and that's fantastic. And McKenzie pitched a pretty decent game for, you know, how he's been getting back into the season. But, you know, with the stadium, you know, with some of the renovations going on, like, give me your whole take. I want to hear everything about the stadium, everything about the game.
I mean, it was really cool for me to see the stadium, what they did new to the stadium. I thought it was really nice. It shows the owners are spending a little more money on the team, which I love to see personally. I don't know if you got down to, some of the newer seats right behind home plate there. They're really comfortable. They
Yeah,
are.
I saw that on Twitter that the new seats are fantastic compared to the old school green ones. But no, I was crowded in the standing room section underneath the probably brewed in Ohio sign watching the game. I'm really happy with the 2 clubs that they opened up upstairs. I went up and got to see the one. That one was fantastic. A lot more space for people who buy the ballpark pass and just want to stand around and watch baseball, have a couple beers. What are your thoughts on the 2 new clubs upstairs?
I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's a lot better than having nothing there. Why not use the space? And then to get a little nerdy about it for a second, the one renovation they made to the upper level club created a wind tunnel for all the lefty batters that we have.
You sent me that tweet. I forgot about that.
And, put on your tinfoil hat with me for a second and go ahead and throw your bet on Jose to win MVP this year because he's going to launch so many more homers from the left side of the plate.
I'm really happy with where the stadium is at in terms of progression. I still think it's hilarious that some of the seats are green and some of the seats are blue, even in the lower bowl still. I think that looks a bit ridiculous, but you know, as we've talked with the Browns stadium and everything going on there, it's never easy to get something done and get on the same page right away, right? Other than that, pitching right now, you know, Bieber's out, Williams is out. Pitching's been kind of shaky. McKenzie looked not fantastic whatsoever yesterday. I was at the game. What are your thoughts about what we should do pitching wise from here on out? I think Cavaliers is pitching today. I'm going to double check that while you talk.
We have Logan Allen on the mound today for the
Is it?
140 start. Yeah.
I don't know why it said Cavaliers. He isn't even with us anymore, right? Or is he in AAA?
He might be in triple.
It's Allen though.
Yeah, it's Logan Allen. Overall, though, I am more nervous than I was the day Shane Bieber got announced that he's done for the year. In the back of my mind, I went, oh, okay, cool. Tristan McKenzie also happens to be a Cy Young caliber pitcher when he can stay healthy. But he doesn't look like that this year so far. Granted, it's early into the year, but I'm nervous. I think we're going to end up having to make a trade and I wouldn't be shocked to see us trade Clase to go get another starter and maybe a bat because he's such a good closer. I think we could get a good amount for him.
Yeah, I love Clase. He's probably one of my favorite players on the team in general. So the fact that I would lean towards he's probably going to get traded just because we need help desperately on starting pitching. I know you love Cookie. Cookie has not been a starting
No.
caliber pitcher. He's also 38, so that's very fair. Um, yeah, McKenzie, who is also is my favorite pitcher on the Guardians in terms of starting, um, has not looked like himself at all. He let up 4 runs at the beginning of the game yesterday at the 6 p.m. game, obviously. Um, it wasn't pretty. He was throwing a lot of balls. I think he walked 2 runs in. Uh, I'm curious to see if he's going to develop back. I know he's been out for a while with injuries and stuff like that, but I really hope he gets back to form because this team needs it. Because I don't know if I'm going to say World Series Guardians, but I do think there's some potential there more than we thought going into this season. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I was really nervous having Vogt, no managing experience. I wasn't nervous about him long term, but I figured his rookie campaign might be a little rough.
Me too.
He's impressed me so far. And the one thing I do want to say about Tristan is he always never looks good at the start of the year, and especially with not playing in a while. I think we just need to give him some time. He'll figure it out. He'll settle it in. It just really sucks that Shane Bieber got 2 starts in and ended his year. It didn't really give him time. It didn't really give Tristan time to get into his swing, which is hurting us now. But I think we'll be all right. Gavin Williams will come back, potentially make a trade. We'll fill the rotation out and be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cavs. I'm a little bit more optimistic, and maybe that's just because we clinched the playoffs this weekend, and today is the last game of the regular season. So we clinched the playoffs against a depleted Grizzlies team. They opened the spread at 15. We were giving 15, so it was Cavs minus 15. I will say I was a little nervous because at halftime the game was basically tied, and I don't like that at all against basically their G League team. But Matt, I know it's baseball and you're a baseball guy. What are your takes on what's going on with Cleveland? I mean, we're going to the playoffs. I want to talk about some of the matchups real quick, but in general, what are you thinking about the Cavs?
If you've been a fan of the show for a long time, you know me as the pessimistic sports fan, and I'm gonna throw it back to that for a brief moment. It's a first round exit Cavs team again. It is the way they've
You
played to
think
end
so?
the year. It's a first round exit team. It
So
reminds me of the implosion the Philadelphia Eagles had to end the NFL season this past year. I think they lost like 6 straight and then got bounced in the wild card.
So I'm a little more optimistic solely because of the matchups we could be getting. Right now, if everything were to settle as it is, we would be playing the Magic. That is not at all set in stone. We could be playing the Magic, the Pacers, the Sixers, or the Heat. Really, it's down, I think, to the Heat is a very long shot. I think it's Sixers, Pacers, Magic. We beat the Pacers with their full roster and our full roster, even in the slump right now on Friday night. So I'm really, really happy with that. And I would love that matchup because we're all but secured home court advantage at this point. Um, so I would be very happy with the Pacers matchup because I do think we could beat them in a 7-game series. Same with the Magic. The 76ers do scare me a little bit because Joel Embiid's back. With that being said, though, I do think we might actually get a playoff round win out of this out of this Cavaliers team because of the matchup we get. And then in the next round, we'll see what happens because then you're looking at, New York, the Bucks, or the Celtics. And I think all 3 of those teams do unfortunately have our number right now. But hey, what if we get hot? I mean, Darius Garland's been playing pretty good basketball lately. there's a lot of things that can still happen here to make it at least interesting in the postseason. But right now, being the 4 seed with the injuries we've had, with the poor rotations that we've had, with the issues we've had post All-Star break, I'm, as ecstatic as you could be with what's going on just because they clinched the playoffs. You know what I mean, Matt?
I get it, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying, 100%. I would have been a lot more comfortable had, the last week of the season we rattled off an undefeated week and we were like, oh, okay, we put it back together. We have it figured out. Everybody's playing the way they should be. We didn't really do that though. And I get like the playoffs carry that energy with them, and we could come out as the team that beat the Celtics way back or whatever. But I just would have liked to see it before we got to the playoffs. I don't like leaving it to game 1 of the playoffs to see how we're going to be playing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and that's been kind of my opinion too. I've said it on the last couple shows. I just think matchup wise, we kind of got a lucky draw, and we should be able to, at least win a series, which is better than last year, where the Knicks basically bent us over and had their way with us. I do want to tease the next episode of the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. We're going to be talking, should all sports go to a 1 game and you're out playoff system? Matt, I don't want you to put any input here. I just want to tease that. I think it's going to be a fun one just based off of my group chat with those guys and bringing it up as an idea to talk about. So make sure you tune in. That'll be Wednesday around 9:30. And before we get into our next topic, Matt, let's take a quick ad break so we can get our pennies on the dollar for our episode. Welcome back to the show, guys. Thank you for listening to that ad break. It does help us out a lot, just so you know, if you go and download the show on Spotify, Apple Music, Odyssey, wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow our numbers, grow our fan base, and, add a couple pennies to the pocket for me and Matt to, go throw on a sports bet or something like that. But, Matt, LeBron James, because we're Cleveland fans, I did want to talk about this briefly. LeBron James has not yet opted into his player option. I've seen this coming for years because of Bronny entering the draft. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
I really think it's a case of he wants to play with his kid and then retire. I think that's all it is. He's going to go to wherever his kid gets drafted and then retire 1, maybe 2 years after that.
I hope obviously I hope he comes to Cleveland just because I think a LeBron James would make this roster a playoff contender regardless of his age, because how are you going to stop Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen as a starting 5? That's just me though. But, I think about when Jordan came back and played with the Wizards for a couple seasons. I want to see him go somewhere weird that none of us are like, why would he? You would never think he would go there. Like LA makes sense. The Knicks make sense. The Heat at the time made sense. Obviously, Cleveland makes sense because he's from down the road. Go to the Charlotte Hornets. Go to, I don't know, the New Orleans Pelicans. Like seeing a 23 LeBron jersey in one of those team shops would be so weird, and I would be inclined to buy it just because it's LeBron, but I think that would be hilarious. What do you think about something like that?
I think a Portland Trailblazers LeBron James jersey would be the hardest jersey in my collection, and it's not even close.
So for those who don't know, my favorite non-Cavs player in the NBA is Damian Lillard. So Portland and their uniforms and their branding and all that has always had a soft spot in my heart. So I will double down on that and buy a LeBron Portland jersey if that comes to fruition. Other than that, so you're in agreement. I think we're both in agreement that he's kind of going to dip out of LA if LA doesn't sign Bronny.
I mean, really, the only way I think on a long shot he doesn't is if they go win a title this year. He might be like, all right, let's run it back, give it another title run, and then I'm going to play where my kid is, give him a year alone. But I don't really see LA winning the title this year, so
Yeah,
we can
they're in the
kind of throw
play-in
that
right
out the
now.
window.
They're locked at the 8 for the play-in, and it's either going to be the Pelicans or the Suns in the play-in with the Kings and the Warriors. So they don't even know if they're going to be officially in the playoffs yet or not. So we're going to switch to Browns to wrap this thing up. The Browns have had a lot of things happen this week. Not anything crazy happened this week. Well, the Nick Chubb news is kind of crazy. And we're also going to talk schedule predictions for a second because me and Matt went and did the Bally Bet Browns schedule prediction championship tournament thing for a signed Myles Garrett jersey. And we're going to show our picks and kind of talk through our schedule choices. But first, the big news, Nick Chubb gets restructured. What are your thoughts about that? I'm really excited because that basically means Chubb's coming back. But I think there's some other implications here. But Matt, you go ahead first.
I mean, overall, big thing, number one, Chubb staying in Cleveland. Love it. That's the big thing. That's all that really matters here in my mind. To get down into it a little more, it's more of a team friendly deal now. Obviously, performance based incentives. If he comes back and has an amazing year, the deal gets a lot better for him as well. It works for both sides, really. It's him coming off an injury, saying, "Hey, cut back what you're paying me a little bit, but if I come back the same, I'm going to make a lot of money." And the team has a lot more wiggle room. That money will go into bonuses. So it works out well for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think something that hasn't been stated as much as it should be is the fact that they haven't um, restructured Deshaun Watson's deal yet. I find that really interesting because does that mean that they're not as sold on Deshaun anymore as they were beforehand, where they're kind of willing to bite the bullet on some money now in case they want to back out and go a different direction after his 5 years is up? Because at this point, you would assume that he gets restructured to even free up more cap space just in case if they're all the way in on him. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
I'm beginning to wonder if it's a case of Deshaun not wanting to touch his contract. He might be shutting down any conversation of a restructure, saying, "Hey, you're not going to play with this. I don't want to mess with it."
That's
That's what I'm
interesting
beginning
to
to
me, though.
think.
That's interesting to me, though, because, it just basically puts more money in his pocket right away. So I don't get why he wouldn't. But that's also another option. Maybe he wants to leave it the way so he can go try somewhere else in 3 years. And he's just not saying that right now because obviously that will be a media nightmare for him if he does that. Matt, next thing to talk about, the Brazil game is not Cleveland's. What are your thoughts? They snubbed us and gave it to Green Bay.
Listen, Jordan Love had an awesome year. The Packers are a bright young team, but they're like 2 or 3 years behind the Cleveland Browns. So if you want to talk from a grow the NFL standpoint, there's no reason not to send Cleveland. I mean, it's a better looking team. It'll be a more competitive game. More people will be like, "Oh, that's a cool team. I should follow the league." At the end of the day, I don't really think it matters. I'm not super upset by it. I think it would have been an awesome thing to see the Browns have more outreach, but cuts down on the travel time for our players across a long NFL season. It's not the end of the world, really.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm kind of just impartial. Like, I thought Friday Night Football to start the season would have been really cool. But I'm going to use this as my tradition in my schedule predictions because I think there's actually a more main reason why they did this. So I'm going to show my schedule predictions and talk through it, and then I'm going to show yours. But here's mine. So I have us opening with the Steelers, then Chargers, then away at Saints, away at Ravens, Giants, Bengals at home, Jags away, and then bye week. And I did this because I think we are going to play the Jags in London this year. I think that's why they decided to do this. was to give us another game in London. The last time we played overseas was London. It was all but confirmed from some of the people I know with the Browns, which makes me sound like I know a bunch of people, but I don't. I just work with some people at the Cavs that we're probably going to have an overseas game this year. So I think they decided in terms of the grander schedule, Browns, Jags in London made more sense. And then you kind of wrap it up with the Commanders, Eagles, Dolphins, Bengals, Cowboys, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens. I backloaded the AFC North games towards the end of the season because that's kind of been a trend for the NFL lately. On top of the fact that it puts us at a middle of the season bye week, which selfishly I would rather have. I think middle of the season favors teams a lot better. Start the season against a division opponent. That's pretty typical for an NFL schedule. This could be completely wrong, but I thought, just trying to randomize and pick some things and see where it goes. This was a pretty balanced going between non-divisional, divisional, non-AFC, AFC teams. Matt, what are your takes on my schedule real quick before I show yours? Because we're vastly different.
They are very different. I didn't even consider the fact of playing Jacksonville overseas. I kind of forgot that was likely, so I didn't account for that when I made mine.
So,
other than that, though, the midweek bye, I think mine's pretty close to yours as well.
Let's show Matt's. Talk us through it, man.
So, very different, as we mentioned. It seems like week one, it's very common to open up in your division. So I went with Baltimore. I think that'll be a good week one game for the NFL, make some money. And then from there, I just kind of went on what I thought would be a good schedule. I didn't put as much thought as Noah did into it, really. A week 9 bye there. You run Ravens away, Giants home, Bengals home, Raiders away, Chargers at home, Jacksonville Steelers away, Dallas at home, hit the bye at 9, like I said. Then you run through the second half of the season. I set the Chiefs at home coming out of the bye. That was kind of a selfish placement. I think it would be nice to have the bye coming into playing the defending Super Bowl champs. Give us another week to get ready for them. Then after that, we fly out to Denver, play the Broncos, and then away for the Bengals, home for our second Ravens game in week 13, away at the Commanders, away at the Saints, home for the Dolphins in 16, away at the Eagles in 17, and then finish it up in the division, like almost always, with the Steelers week 18 at home.
So what was your thought process? I love that you bookended 2 home games around the bye week, so we're not even traveling at all. It's like extra time off. If I was building the Browns schedule, 100% would do it that way. But any extra thought process here that you have? I honestly think your schedule makes a lot of sense. You started it the same way I did, with the division opponent and then a non-division opponent and then back into a division opponent. Yeah, I think your schedule makes sense, except I'm like, I am a betting man, but if I were to bet on the Browns and Jags being a London game, I would put money on that being a London game. Any other thoughts schedule-wise that you have going on?
Like I mentioned before, I didn't really consider the London game when we did that. And then I was just looking at, in my mind, it'd be really exciting to have that Eagles-Browns game, second to last week of the season. That could be a real big matchup. Obviously, that's just a dream schedule, but I think that could be something the NFL sees and goes, hey, we could make a lot of money with that matchup, because that could be a playoff decider.
I was going to say, especially if both teams perform how they're expected to perform. I'm with you 100%. Couple last things I want to cover before we go into our final takes Brown-wise. I did forget to mention Greg Newsome. They're picking up his 5th-year option, which is pretty big news for us because, we were talking about trading him or getting off the contract or whatever. I love our secondary right now. I think we have a very good secondary, so not breaking it up and spending the money while we're in our Super Bowl window, I'm all here for it. Not any additions to that. I think that's pretty cut and clear.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I do like is picking up the 5th-year option doesn't necessarily close the door on a trade if the right deal comes through,
Right.
but it also doesn't force our hand into doing something right now.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I'm just happy with, extending him and keeping the core together. I want to keep this core together as much as you can. I know there's going to be some casualties here and there because of, that's what happens when a team is good. But I also want to tease. So next week is going to be our last show before the draft. So we're going to do another, little 2-round, second and third round pick mock draft for the Browns. 2 players that I have seen pop up is we did a top 30 visit with Michael Hall Jr. For all of our Ohio State fans out there, the D tackle for the Buckeyes. He's 6'3", 290 pounds. He's 20 years old. He ran a 4.78 40, 25 reps at 225 on the bench. 24 tackles and a sack and a half in 12 games in 2023. Scouts see him more as like this pass rush prospect, not an every down D tackle. I like the idea just because I think we're pretty set at every position. I mean, is there a hole in this roster that you really see that you want them to jump out with the second or the third round pick, Matt?
I mean, there's not like a hole. I think we mentioned it on the episode where we did our mock draft, but like a linebacker would be nice, wide receiver depth, and then a D tackle, which is what it seems like they're looking at.
Yeah, and speaking of D tackle too, Tavondre Sweat, which is a guy I mocked to us in my first mock draft. Some people see him going as high as number 1. Some people see him, falling. I now see him falling because he was arrested and charged with a DWI, aka the Andrew Berry special. Guy that messes up, we draft him in. He's perfectly fine. Maybe sometimes we got to cut him. Perrion Winfrey. But Tavondre Sweat has the skills to be a good defensive tackle in this league. And I love him as a prospect. So regardless of his stupidity, hopefully we can get him in this locker room culture and get him right, because I do feel confident saying we could get him right in the Browns locker room for the first time in probably 20 years of my life. Well, 23, but Matt, any takes on that?
Listen, some of my personal favorite Andrew Berry draft selections are dudes that have slid in the draft for no reason, in my opinion. Look
Yeah.
at DeJuan Jones, slid in the draft because
JOK.
he's too big. Too big for an offensive lineman? Are you stupid? A little bit, I guess. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah had a heart problem, was fully cleared by every medical personnel he talked to for months prior to the draft. Still slid. Look at him now, one of the better linebackers in the league.
Yeah, I'm with
I'm
you
not I'm not
100%.
saying, a DUI isn't a big deal, and that's definitely something that needs to be addressed if we do pick him up. Something that needs to be, hey, you're on a very short leash. What do we need to do to address this? But I think we have the team and the coaching staff for it, especially bringing in Vrabel, who seems to be a real control the guys coach.
Yeah.
So if he slides to us and we pick him up and we think we can make it work, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, DPJ is another one that comes to mind. Obviously, we traded him for the same value we took him with, but he slid in that draft and was, one of the better wide receivers to come out of the late rounds at the very least. He's in Detroit now. I don't know if he re-signed or whatever off the top of my head, but yeah, Andrew Berry specials, the slides, and, a slide for some attitude issues is something that, I could foresee us fixing 100%. Matt, anything else, Browns, you want to cover before we go into our final takes, man?
Nothing really pops up.
All right, let's go to it. Final takes, Matt. What is your last take of the day?
Last take of the day is the guards scare me, but we're fighting with the Yankees. We got to avoid the sweep at 140 today.
Yes, we do. My final take is also baseball related, and I'm going to be a little spicy here, but I think Shohei Ohtani's still guilty, even though he was decided not guilty by TMZ Sports and all that in his litigations. he was not a victim of fraud. I think he was sports betting, and his translator, who he was very close with, took the fall for him. Yeah, I'm going conspiracy theory to wrap up this episode. Oh well, I don't think he. I think he got out of it because he's, one of the faces of the MLB and one of the biggest money draws for the MLB. But that's just me, Matt. I want to know what you think about that real quick before we go to the outro.
I have two things to say and two things only. Noah, we need to hire an interpreter because then we'll be protected from anything we do on this show. Two, put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame today. Fight me on it. It's insane. It's stupid that he's not in. I'm actually going to get physically mad if I sit here and continue to think about it.
All right. Well, with that being said, I'm not getting a little spicy to end the episode. Thank you for tuning into the East Bank Sports Show, everybody. We really appreciate your support. Make sure you check out all the other guys on the Fanatical Elves Network, Jarrell, all of those guys, Jarrell, Sam, Elliot, Steve, John, all of those guys do great shows over at the show, the episode on the network. Jesus. On top of that, make sure you check out the Office episode coming out on Wednesday this week, and make sure you check out the Fanatical Elf Show on Thursday this week, where we will probably be debating whatever happens Browns-wise this week. I am your host, Noah. This is Matt. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week.